15th. I'm Nicole Burley, and this is NewsNation Rush Hour. We have a lot of news to get to here in the United States, and we start with major news from the White House. Just hours ago, the administration confirming President Biden will travel to Europe next week to attend an emergency summit with NATO leaders focused on Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, now in week 3, and Ukraine's president says 97 children have been killed since that violence began. This is the capital city of Kyiv imposes a 35-hour curfew because of Russia's attacks. We do have reporters fanned out across the globe covering every aspect of the ongoing war in Ukraine. We want to get right to NewsNation correspondent Kelly Meyer, who was live in Washington. So, Kelly, you have details about the president's upcoming trip.
That's right, Nicole. This is a rare summit for NATO. This is the first time President Joe Biden is back in Europe since his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin last summer. The White House says Biden wanted to meet face-to-face with NATO leaders. The head of NATO is calling for this emergency meeting, saying, quote, "At this critical time, North America and Europe must continue to stand together." The meeting will focus on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, reassuring support for Ukrainians and what more NATO can do to strengthen its own defenses as Russian attacks inch closer to the border with Poland, a NATO member. The White House says Biden is also set to join an already scheduled meeting of the European Council summit as the EU and U.S. continue to hit Russia with economic sanctions. Today, Russia hitting back, slapping sanctions on President Biden himself and key members of his administration. The Russian Foreign Ministry retaliating with personal sanctions from Biden to his son Hunter to the Secretary of State and Defense Secretary and Hillary Clinton, to name a few. Also on the list, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. She had this biting reaction to Russia's move during the press briefing earlier today. Take a listen.
I would first note that President Biden is a junior, so they may have sanctioned his dad. May he rest in peace. The second piece I would say is that won't surprise any of you that none of us are planning tourist trips to Russia. None of us have bank accounts that we won't be able to access, so we will forge ahead.
And former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also reacting to Russia's sanctions earlier today, writing on Twitter, quote, "I want to thank the Russian Academy for this Lifetime Achievement Award." The U.S. and allies have already sanctioned Russian banks, Russian elites, and Putin. They have threatened to go after Russian military for their involvement in the war, but this has yet to stop Moscow. And Ukraine's president expected to ask for more help from the U.S. and allies when he addresses members of Congress virtually tomorrow. Nicole?
All right, so, Kelly, what are we expecting to hear from the president of Ukraine, and that's tomorrow?
We'll expect to hear more from him asking for more support, more weapons like surface-to-air missiles, and help getting those MiG-29 fighter jets into Ukraine. Those planes were offered up by Poland, but the U.S. nixed the plan because the jets were going to be sent first to the U.S. base in Germany before going into Ukraine. The Biden administration felt moving this plan could escalate this to World War III. And this as bipartisan lawmakers are calling on the president to reconsider getting those jets into Ukraine. This is setting up a showdown between the president and some members of his own party. Nicole?
All right, Kelly Meyer live for us from the White House. Thank you for that. Well, here are some satellite images of Mariupol in southern Ukraine. It's a city bombarded by Russian attacks. It's believed that about 2,000 vehicles left the heavily damaged city through a humanitarian corridor. Now, it's the first time civilians were allowed to leave through a safe passageway. Ukraine's president says the city is cut from communications and is running out of food and supplies. Meanwhile, today, China denies aiding Russia in any way. In spite of reports, Russia has requested military and food assistance from its ally. China now accusing the U.S. of spreading disinformation, saying, quote, "We have a clear goal, that is to promote the de-escalation of the situation and end the conflict as soon as possible." Now, China has never referred to the invasion of Ukraine as a war, instead calling it the Ukraine issue. Meantime, intense fighting continues around Ukraine's capital as Russian forces attempt to capture Kyiv. But 3 weeks into the invasion, the capital city remains in Ukraine's control, which has raised a lot of questions on Russia's strategy. Correspondent Kelly Beeson is live for us here in the newsroom. Now, Kelly, you spoke to a Marine officer and military expert. Has Russia fallen off course here?
Well, Nicole, a variety of experts we've spoken with have said the Russian military are certainly not where they thought they'd be at this hour due to an unpredictably strong response by Ukrainian forces. A Marine officer telling NewsNation Putin's forces have made some of the biggest mistakes a military can make in warfare. Weeks after the Russian invasion, forces defending their homeland of Ukraine have remained steadfast in the fight.
They have been amazing in their response. And so the Russians are running into a buzzsaw in conventional warfare.
Marine officer and military expert Dan Emmett says the Russians anticipated fighting in the country for days instead of weeks and are no closer to victory today than they were when the invasion began last month.
They made the two biggest mistakes you can make in warfare. They underestimated their opponent and they overestimated their own abilities.
Today, a senior defense official telling NewsNation leading elements of Russian forces have not considerably advanced on the capital of Ukraine, estimating they're a little more than 10 miles to the northwest and about 15 miles to the east. Ukrainians are still at this hour defending Kyiv.
This is far from over. They're ready to take this as long as it takes to get their country back.
Emmett says because Ukrainians know the territory, they're at a much greater advantage, likely pulling Russian forces in and then hitting them with conventional tactics as well as hit and run.
So the Ukrainians have taken a lot out of the old playbook from the partisans of World War II and other wars, and they're using it to great effect against the Russians.
As the invasion continues to drag on, Emmett says the Russians will likely become more ruthless, potentially massacring large numbers of Ukrainian civilians. While he says it's very possible the Russian military will overwhelm Ukrainian forces, it may come at too high a price for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
If he decides that this just isn't worth it, we're looking really bad on the world stage. It's making our military look horrible. He may just cut his losses and go.
And Emmett says if eventually the cost of the invasion becomes too high for Russia, Putin will likely not admit defeat, rather come up with a face-saving message that he'll relay on the news while coordinating the exit of Russian forces. Nicole.
All right, Kelly, thank you. All right, well, here in the States, a multi-state manhunt ending with the arrest of the man suspected of shooting 5 homeless men in New York City and Washington, D.C. 30-year-old Gerald Brevard was taken into custody in the nation's capital earlier today after the release of video showing some of his alleged attack, 2 of which turned deadly. And Washington correspondent Evan Lambert is live for us. So, Evan, what do we know about this man in custody right now?
Nicole, we are learning that the suspect, Gerald Brevard, has been charged with violent crimes before. He also has a long history of mental illness, according to a relative that I spoke to earlier today, saying, quote, mental illness is real. We want to show you this incredible video of the takedown of this suspect earlier this morning. It was around 2:30 this morning at a gas station here in the nation's capital. You see members of the the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms there taking him down, pointing their weapons at him until he's on the ground, then basically tackling him. We understand he was unarmed. And so this is all coming just 10 hours or so after they put out very clear surveillance video and pictures of this suspect, and then called for, put out a $70,000 reward for tips, asking the public to help identify Brevard. He is accused of the shootings of 5 homeless men in D.C. and New York, all within 9 days, starting early this month. A victim in each of those cities died from their injuries, including 54-year-old Morgan Holmes of D.C. Brevard charged with murder for that killing. The other victims are recovering, we are told. These attacks terrifying people experiencing homelessness in both cities and leading to this all-out manhunt over the last several hours. Police saying the key was a tip coming in yesterday afternoon that identified Brevard, putting things in motion to eventually lead to this arrest.
I send my condolences to the families and friends of the victims here in D.C. and in New York City. We hope that Brevard's arrest provides a sense of closure for you, but also relief to our vulnerable homeless population here in the District of Columbia.
And according to court records, Brevard was accused of trying to stab someone here in D.C. in 2018. He was found mentally incompetent at one point and then spent some time in a mental institution here before then later pleading guilty to those charges. We understand on these new charges for the alleged attacks on homeless members of the community, he will be in court tomorrow. Nicole?
Yeah, great police work here. They took it very seriously, acted quickly. Evan, thank you. Well, Amazon is pulling nearly 2,000 workers from its Seattle-based office because of increased crime in the area. In just the past 3 weeks, Seattle PD says the downtown area has had at least 3 shootings, 2 stabbings, and a carjacking. Now, the workers had been remote the past 2 years because of the pandemic, but now they're all going to be redeployed to other offices. Correspondent Janelle Fort has more on Amazon's decision and why other businesses are being forced to make that tough call between safety and livelihood.
Surging crime in downtown Seattle becoming so serious, Amazon is temporarily relocating employees from its downtown office. The company releasing this statement, quote, given recent incidents near 3rd and Pine, we're providing employees currently at that location with alternative office space elsewhere. We are hopeful that conditions will improve and that we will be able to bring employees back to this location when it is safe to do so. The area in the heart of the city was the site of several recent violent crimes. A 15-year-old boy gunned down March 2nd, a homeless man stabbed in his sleep March 4th, and on the 5th, an officer-involved shooting where police shot and killed a man after he rammed his car into a federal building and fired shots downtown. The wave of crime prompting Seattle PD to set up a mobile precinct and increase patrols in the area. According to the 2021 crime report, overall crime in Seattle is up 10%, violent crime up 20%, and property crime up 9%. This trend not only in Seattle. In our exclusive NewsNation poll from December, we found half the country thinks crime is a problem on the local and national level. Amazon says its downtown office houses roughly 1,800 employees, but many of them have been working remotely in the pandemic. Other downtown businesses say they're also opting to continue remote work out of an abundance of caution. NewsNation spoke with the Downtown Seattle Association, who told us they recently surveyed more than 200 downtown employers, asking them about their return to office plans and what conditions they would need to bring employees back downtown. In a statement, the association said they found, quote, more than 70% of respondents indicated a need for marked improvements in public safety, adding that city and county leaders have taken direct action along 3rd Avenue in recent weeks, and we're already seeing positive results. Janelle Fort, NewsNation.
Also to come on rush hour, thieves aren't only stealing gas from cars. They are getting creative to steal straight from the pump. Can you tell which one of these cars is the culprit? Brian Enton is live with the answer next. But now, some crooks are targeting the source directly. In this video, the van in the corner, so right above my shoulder here, caught on surveillance camera siphoning thousands of dollars worth of gas without ever getting out of the vehicle, as you can see. So the question is, how'd they do it? NewsNation's Brian Enton is live for us in Miami. Brian, how are they doing this?
Well, Nicole, first of all, this is really catching gas stations off guard. Some of these thieves literally just show up and bust the gas pumps and steal the fuel that way. Others are very, very sneaky with the way they do it. There's this new trend where vans and trucks will pull up on top of the underground gas tanks. They will bust open the lids and they'll steal the fuel that way. We've seen thieves stealing gas right out of people's cars, and now they're targeting gas stations too. Look at the minivan in this surveillance video. The owner of the Houston gas station says it stopped on top of their tanks and used a trap door under the van to pump out and steal 1,000 gallons of gas.
It's crazy that they had this trap door. After talking to investigators, they were telling me this is more common than it seems, that they have this trap door so that it's kind of inconspicuous.
By the 3rd time the van showed up stealing fuel, gas station owner Jerry Thayil was on to them. You see him here running after the van.
Anybody can fall victim to this if they're not watchful.
It's happening throughout the country. This video is from Long Beach, California. Police say the white trucks on the left side of the screen belong to gas thieves. You can see them run off when cops show up.
They're super organized.
The trucks are equipped with huge plastic tanks. The thieves here broke the gas pump, so it just kept dispensing. At one LA area gas station, they got away with $30,000 in diesel fuel. Police call the trucks rolling bombs because they're flammable and dangerous.
Looks like the construction truck, but in the middle is designed as the tank. That means everything is modified.
And that Houston gas station owner says now he has much stronger locks on his underground tanks. He is even considering hiring a 24-hour security guard to guard his gas station. Nicole?
All right, Brian, so, I see this story and I'm thinking, okay, well, they're not stealing from people. They're stealing from the station there. But do we all ultimately lose in the end? Does that mean that the gas station owner has to raise prices to make up for the stolen gas? What happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could end that way. Unfortunately, people see Shell station, but they don't realize that many of these gas stations are family owned, like that one in Houston. He says they're still working with their insurance company, but they could end up having to come out of pocket thousands of dollars because of that theft.
All right, right, and you're teaching us things here. All right, thank you for that. Well, still ahead on Rush Hour, we know millions of refugees are fleeing Ukraine. When we come back, just how many of them are trying to come here to America? We'll hear from a U.S. immigration lawyer. And a former Chicago police officer, one of the many volunteers opting to leave his family in America to go fight in Ukraine. Thanks for joining us here on NewsNation Rush Hour. I'm Nicole Burley, and the number of refugees fleeing the war in Ukraine continues to grow, now topping 3 million people. You can see from this map where they're going, nearly 2/3 of those Ukrainians finding refuge in Poland. Now, in many cases, they're finding support across the border from others from their home country already living in Poland. And those who have escaped Russia's attacks have fled to neighboring countries, as we said, like Poland and Moldova. But as the crisis in Ukraine grows more severe by the day and weeks, the U.S. could soon see an influx of Ukrainians and even Russians trying to seek refuge. Correspondent Nancy Liu is live for us in L.A. Nancy, an immigration lawyer you spoke with says right now she's being inundated with requests for help.
You're right, Nicole, and she is not alone. Even before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. was already seeing more requests from both countries, people trying to get into the U.S., especially Russians. The crisis has put a new spotlight on the thousands seeking entry into Southern California from Mexico. This is becoming a more common scene at the U.S. port of entry in San Isidro. A Ukrainian named Sofia and her 3 children recently entered from Tijuana. They had fled Ukraine 3 days after the invasion.
I probably don't have any other place to go because actually I have family and friends in USA and they're ready to support me.
But this Ukrainian couple was turned away due to improper paperwork. While there is ease in entering Mexico, Ukraine and Russia are not on the list of countries with a U.S. visa waiver, so a swell of European asylum seekers is growing south of the border, and for quite some time it's been far more Russians than Ukrainians.
I really want to try to help everyone, and I know it's not possible, and it's an emotional roller coaster. It's tough, yeah.
Immigration attorney Anaida Zanikian has gone from a couple Russian inquiries a month to several new clients every week. The southern border has seen more than 5,600 Russians seeking asylum in just the past 4 months.
It has been going on for a while, but it started increasing last year. I believe because the situation in Russia has been deteriorating.
And with things getting worse with the impact of Western sanctions, more Russians want out. But rubles are practically worthless and flights out are extremely limited.
Sanctions and everything, they hit the hardest to the people who are actually free thinkers, who are not supporting whatever the government is doing. And it's really sad because they are actually trapped right now.
Russians and Ukrainians are a tiny fraction of all asylum seekers at the border, but according to the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse at Syracuse, they are winning their cases at a higher rate than other migrants.
It will be very interesting how the administration will handle this, given that they have now flown many Haitian refugees back to Haiti on deportation flights over the last several months.
Now, north of the border, many migrants are assisted by the San Diego Response Network, which reports the biggest groups they are currently serving: Russians, Ukrainians, and Cubans. Nicole?
All right, Nancy Liu, thank you for that. Well, we do have more tragic news to report out of Ukraine. Fox News confirming today that photojournalist Pierre Zashevsky was killed after coming under fire from Russian forces. A 24-year-old Ukrainian consultant was also killed in that attack. Fox News correspondent Benjamin Hall was injured. He remains hospitalized. Now, their deaths and injuries come just days after an American journalist and filmmaker, Brent Renaud, was also killed in Ukraine. Ukraine's effort to repel Russia's invasion has not only relied on Ukrainian citizens of all ages, but also on fighters from around the world who are showing up to volunteer. One of those, a U.S. Army vet and Chicago police officer who left his job and family behind to answer the call of service 5,000 miles away. Sean Lewis from our Chicago station spoke one-on-one with that Army vet about how his experience defending America motivated him to drop everything and fly across the world into a war zone.
5,000 miles from his Chicago home.
It's very surreal when you see it.
We talked with Harrison Josefowicz while he's in a war zone in western Ukraine.
We just had a day of training with the Georgian Legion. They're complete 100% volunteers just like us, and they've been here since 2014.
Josefowicz served with the U.S. Army with tours in Afghanistan and as a Chicago police officer for 3 years. He quit the CPD not long ago because of the Russian invasion, volunteering with the group Task Force Yankee, Ukraine.
This shouldn't be happening to anyone, and I know that there are a lot of like-minded people here with me who feel that same way. This war has only been going on for 2 weeks since Russia officially crossed into Ukraine. And it is just phenomenal to see all of these people coming together and pretty much knowing what has to get done.
For now, this former U.S. soldier and Chicago cop is working to train civilians and provide support to other volunteers.
There was a bombing nearby that killed 9 people and wounded about 60 others. So we sent some medics to go help out at the hospital with that.
Along the way, helping Ukrainian families to safety.
These people are just amazing because we're not seeing a group of people that are running away from their home. These people are here and defending their cities and their livelihoods and their business and their families. It just makes you want to keep digging deeper.
He says the U.S. pullout in Afghanistan is part of the reason why he's made this dangerous trip, a volunteer mission to help a nation in need, leaving his family for now in Chicago.
They support me, my family. they support me. It's just they don't fully understand why I'm doing this because, again, this is 100% volunteer, but they're seeing what I'm doing. I'm letting them know what I'm doing, and they're actually getting more supportive now, so it's not too bad.
His hope is for peace in a country besieged by a neighbor and its powerful military.
You never thought that we would have seen this kind of conventional warfare ever again, but here we are.
Sean Lewis, NewsNation, Chicago.
Thank you, Sean. Well, coming up, gunfights and a grenade at the U.S. consulate in Mexico. Why the capture of a cartel leader is igniting dramatic violence along the border. And Vladimir Putin signs a new law in Russia, further escalating tensions around the globe. And don't forget, you can follow me on social media at the U.S. consulate in Nuevo Laredo, right across the U.S. border, with federal employees there instructed to shelter in place. Correspondent Marky Martin is live for us tonight in Dallas. So, Marky, tell us, why would getting a cartel leader off the streets actually turn into more violence?
Yeah, Nicole, you're about to see a lot of video, but I will tell you right off the top, what is happening in Nuevo Laredo is exactly the kind of violence that Governor Abbott has been pointing to for the last year when he's touting his Operation Lone Star, and his changing of leadership at the very top of the National Guard might actually be his first acknowledgement that things aren't operating smoothly.
The sounds of gunfire piercing the night in Nuevo Laredo. Gang members paralyzing traffic with spike strips. Charred tractor trailers lining the highway.
You saw some of the destruction of 18-wheelers, vehicles along the pathway.
Congressman Henry Cuellar from Laredo, Texas, says the violence was sparked over a high-profile cartel arrest.
One group is not happy because they caught their leader. The other two are saying, is there a vacuum in here? Maybe we need to come in. So there might be fights over Plaza because of what happened, capturing that high-ranking individual.
The man arrested, one of Border Patrol's most wanted criminals, Juan Gerardo Trevino, also known as El Huevo. He's the leader of the Cartel of the Northeast, with a long rap sheet. His arrest, a powerful blow to that gang's power in the area. Now, 2 other cartels are vying for their business. 3 gangs taking to the streets, firing at Mexican troops and each other, shutting down the U.S. consulate and 2 international bridges in the process. All of this on the same day Governor Greg Abbott appointed a new leader to run the Texas National Guard. General Thomas Seltzer is replacing General Tracy Norris, who had been in charge of the Texas Military Department for 3 years and the embattled Operation Lone Star since its inception.
What we do know is that the results that we've seen on the border have been difficult living conditions for soldiers, endemic pay problem, lack of key equipment.
Davis Winkie is a reporter with the Army Times who first broke operational problems with Operation Lone Star. A press release from Governor Abbott about the change hinted it was because General Norris' term was up. Winkie believes there's probably more to the story.
Yes, Norris's 2-year appointment had expired, but her predecessor did 7 years. It's pretty common for adjutants general around the country to be in service of their state for years, if not decades. So this is likely an early exit.
And Nicole, Operation Lone Star, clearly a major hot button issue, not only here in Texas, but nationwide. And now Governor Abbott will be up for re-election. He's facing off against Beto O'Rourke come November. And O'Rourke himself issued a statement yesterday saying in part this: you can switch generals, but we all know where the buck stops. Greg Abbott took 10,000 Guard members from their families, jobs, and communities, eventually adding that it's time to send them all home. Nicole.
All right, Marky Martin live in Dallas. Thank you for that. All right, now to some other headlines. In our rush hour rundown, the EU has now imposed its own sanctions on Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, owner of English Premier League soccer club Chelsea. Abramovich had already been sanctioned by the UK, but will now have his assets frozen and his travel banned across much of Europe. He's also been suspended as director of the Premier League. A new report says Vladimir Putin will allow foreign planes to be seized and used in Russia. His new law would mostly affect aircraft companies which rented jets to Russia before the invasion of Ukraine. The report from the Wall Street Journal says the overall impact will be small, though, since the planes require a lot of maintenance, but the move is considered an escalation of tensions. Germany announcing a new plan today to combat far-right extremism in that country. The 10-point plan includes tightening background checks and disarming some 1,500 suspected extremists. The Interior Minister says the far right poses the biggest extremist threat to democracy in Germany and added that emphasis will also be on rooting out extremists who work in government agencies, including security forces. And listen to this, the TSA has fined more than 900 maskless passengers for a total of more than $600,000. The mask violators were primarily on commercial flights or in airports, with the rest at train stations or on public transit. Now, just last week, the TSA announced the mask requirements at airports and on airplanes will be extended through April 18th. Well, still ahead, a fake heiress made famous by a Netflix show about duping New York elites is out of prison. But now Anna Sorkin's fate is in the hands of ICE, where she'll be heading next. And if you need an NCAA team to root for this year, we may have one for you. We will introduce you to a corporate executive turned college basketball coach, taking a little-known team to the big dance. Socialites. Sorokin has been in federal custody for overstaying her visa after her release from prison, but now there are questions on whether she's still in ICE custody or has actually been deported. Correspondent Tom Negevin is live in New York. So Tom, tell us, where is Anna Sorokin?
And you know, there's been a lot of conflicting reporting about this, Nicole, over the last 24 hours. We have updates right now from both sides, from ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and from her legal team. ICE says she's still in the country, despite some reports to the contrary, still behind bars in their custody, and her lawyer says right down to the wire, fighting deportation. She's been jailed in New York and New Jersey, a long way from the life of privilege Russian immigrant Anna Sorokin enjoyed in Manhattan, while claiming to be a German heiress called Anna Delvey. Convicted in 2019, the subject of a Netflix series played by Julia Garner, who saw her as likable.
That's why people get conned in the first place, in general. You know, it's very scary.
Sorokin has documented her adventures, even her legal troubles, on Instagram. And while most Americans know who she is, they're still surprised by her long list of crimes. First-degree attempted grand larceny, second- and third-degree grand larceny, theft of services, swindling New Yorkers out of more than $200,000, defrauding banks, skipping out on hotel bills, even stealing a private jet. She served 4 years, which might be the end of it, except she's a German citizen, jailed tonight in upstate New York for overstaying her visa. In a statement to NewsNation, Immigration and Customs Enforcement says in November 2021, the Board of Immigration Appeals granted Sorokin's emergency stay request. She remains in ICE custody, pending removal. But she's not going quietly, recently complaining on a podcast about the press she's been getting. Some of it from an ex-pal, Rachel Deloche-Williams, who wrote a book, allegedly conned out of $62,000.
And it's just like so fake of her to just say like, oh, giving platform to a con. Pay attention, she's probably penning an essay right now.
So fake of her, she says of her frenemy Nicole. A bit of irony there. Immigration and Customs Enforcement reminds us that for operational security reasons, they can't comment on a pending deportation or removal from the country. But again, Anna's lawyer is telling us new tonight that they plan to continue fighting deportation. She's in the country while they appeal.
All right, Tom, thank you for that. Well, meantime, a New York man is in custody after allegedly punching a woman more than 125 times. Police say the 42-year-old is now facing 2 felony hate crime charges after following the 67-year-old Asian woman into the entrance of their shared apartment building. He then allegedly knocked her to the ground, repeatedly punched her, then spit on her. The victim had to be hospitalized. Less than 10% of Chicago area highway shootings are ever solved. That's according to some new data from state police. More than 260 shootings were reported on expressways last year, with only 22 arrests. Many of the cases were actually closed due to a lack of evidence, but authorities are fighting back. 100 cameras are up and running. Another 200 will be added this summer. And no charges will be filed against the Chicago officers who fatally shot 2 individuals within days of each other last year. State's Attorney Kim Foxx says there's not sufficient evidence to support criminal charges in the shooting deaths of Anthony Alvarez and Adam Toledo. Body cam shows Alvarez was carrying a gun as he ran from officers while not obeying commands to drop that weapon. And 13-year-old Toledo was shot and killed moments after he appeared to drop a weapon. A second COVID booster shot may soon be available for people 65 and older. Pfizer and BioNTech will seek FDA emergency authorization in an effort to bolster waning immunity. The companies are also currently doing some clinical trials of a 4th shot for those who are fully vaccinated. A tournament, and they are led by a man who just a few years ago, this guy right here, left a very lucrative job in the private sector. So let's head out to Dayton, Ohio, where the first games are set to tip off tonight, and that is where we find NewsNation's Aaron Nolan live. All right, Aaron, this is quite a story you have for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Nicole. And let's be perfectly honest, this tournament, this event is ripe with amazing stories, including a Notre Dame basketball player that I spoke with today that's playing on the same court here in Dayton tomorrow that his dad did 36 years ago. And then there's this coach that you were just talking about from Longwood. He was a business executive, but he left all that behind to follow his dreams and coach basketball.
The Longwood University Lancers are more than a simple Cinderella. This is a good basketball team winning 26 games this year, and it's good enough to make their mark in March Madness as a 14 seed taking on the Tennessee Volunteers on Thursday. Now on the sidelines for the Lancers, you'll find head coach Griff Aldrich, who led his team to a Big South Conference title. But 6 years ago, he wasn't on the hard court, but rather a boardroom and occasionally in the courtroom. Aldrich found success in the private business world, working in international law and as a CEO of a private investment firm. That was until a friend called and offered him a chance to pursue his dream, coaching college basketball. That was over 5 years ago. Fast forward to right now, Aldrich is leading the Lancers to their first big dance in school history.
And Longwood has a chance to be that Cinderella. They're on the court Thursday. They're hoping for that upset, and so is Coach Aldrich. Now, Coach does have some experiences with upsets. He was on the staff for UMBC years ago when they became the only 16 seed to top a #1 seed. That was against Virginia. So who knows, Nicole?
Woo.
Anything is possible, and that's what this event is all about.
You just said it right there. Anything is possible. All right, Aaron, thank you for that. We'll definitely be watching. Yeah. Well, just ahead, are you still recovering from Sunday's spring forward? Well, you may never have to change your clocks again. Oh, we can only hope. The Senate approving a proposal to make daylight saving time permanent, when it would start and where it goes from here. Saving time is one step closer to becoming permanent. So that means no more lost sleep, no more fussing with your clocks. The Senate approved that proposal today. It does still have to go to the House and then the president's desk before becoming law. In addition, Biden's Supreme Court pick met with more members of Congress. Rashad Hudson is in Washington, D.C. with what senators are looking for in a potential justice.
As Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson meets with senators ahead of her confirmation hearing next week, her record is being questioned on the Senate floor.
The Soft on Crime Brigade is squarely in Judge Jackson's corner.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell says Jackson is being pushed by the, quote, far left.
Before the 2020 election, one far-left dark money group put Judge Jackson on their Supreme Court shortlist.
Illinois Senator and chair of the Judiciary Committee Dick Durbin says Jackson is actually an ally of law enforcement.
He failed to mention she's been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, Mr. President.
The White House is aiming to secure bipartisan support for Jackson, but they can still confirm her with just a simple majority. And Democrats like Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are lining up to defend the judge's record.
Judge Jackson is brilliant. She is beloved. She belongs on the Supreme Court.
Schumer says she deserves broad bipartisan support.
On top of her experience, she is unusually gifted at seeing and appreciating both sides of an argument.
The White House says Jackson has started preparing for next week's hearings.
She started practicing and studying and preparing, which I don't think surprises anyone.
Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson.
And a new report reveals even more details in the death of comedian and actor Bob Saget. That report, released today by the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orlando, says fractures around Saget's eye sockets and bleeding around his brain were possibly caused by him hitting something, quote, hard, covered by something soft. Now, that leaves open the possibility Saget hit his head on a carpeted floor or lightly padded headboard on this hotel bed. Now, yesterday, at the request of his family, a judge ordered Saget's autopsy results never be publicly released. NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei has reached an out-of-this-world achievement. As of today, he now holds the record for the longest continuous time in space by a U.S. astronaut, more than 340 days, which breaks the previous record set in 2013 by Scott Kelly. Vande Hei will return to Earth at the end of the month, joining 2 cosmonauts aboard a Russian spacecraft. And this year's Grammy Awards rundown starting to come together with 3 of the biggest pop artists set to perform: Olivia Rodrigo, BTS, and Billie Eilish. Those awards were originally scheduled in January in LA, had to be postponed due to the rising COVID cases. That ceremony now set for next month in Las Vegas. And that is all for News Nation Rush Hour. Thank you so much for watching. The Dahlin Report is next.